The low to mid-range sector of the smartphone world got a big shakeup this week, ahead of yet another flagship-level launch, this one apparently advertised like a science fiction action film. We'll talk about that, plus give you the roundup on reviews and rumors from the rousing to the ridiculous on episode 096 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week audio podcast where we discuss smartphones, wearables, tablets, and other gadgets you dreamed of owning when you were a kid. From somewhere between Boston, Massachusetts, and New York City, I'm your host, Michael Fisher. Our executive officer today will be chief news editor and my personal real estate agent, Stephen Schenck. Good afternoon.
So are you going to bid on this house or what? Because I'm really itching for this commission here.
I'm going to take Adam Doud's advice on that because he's joining us as well from the comfort of a Friday afternoon staycation, the ever-thoughtful Windows Phone fan. Adam Doud, how are you, brother?
I am well. It's Friday.
It's
gotta
Friday
get down
night,
on.
and the mood is right. Yes. Let's
Think we reached equal levels of
show 'em
suckitude
how
on
it's
our
done.
songs.
No, I think we did well on that. So do you think, Adam, would you live with me in the Star Trek house if I bought it? Because everyone on the entire internet is telling me about this house that, that I apparently need to live in. And I thought it was lame. Have you seen it?
I would live with nobody else in a Star Trek house.
Thank you.
I would kick out my
That means
wife
a lot
and
to me.
kids.
Oh, jeez. See, that's nice.
Well, just because they wouldn't appreciate it.
Right. No, they wouldn't. Nobody would appreciate it as deeply as, well, I think there's like maybe 12 people I know who would appreciate it as deeply as I do. And most of those people I know on the internet. But anyway, yes, everyone
know
about
that.
the Star Trek house in Florida. Yes.
That Mickey living room, though, I don't know, man. I know it's Florida, and you're going to have to buy into it. But
That is the problem, though. Yeah, you get the equal parts Florida weird along with your super Star Trek nerd. And, you know, the cover image they're using for that story is not any fun. Like, the bridge reproduction of the Enterprise D, that's always wonderful, but it's not a very good... Like
no, I mean, you've seen these before. Sometimes people just do like a bridge, but this is a little more encompassing.
That's the thing. Like, you leave the bridge, and the tactical panel has like iPads on it. I'm like, I don't care about that. No, nobody cares about that. But you go elsewhere in the house, and it's just the little details, like the ship models hanging from the walls and stuff. It's pretty intense. But anyway, thank you, Internet. Yes, I know about the Star Trek house, and thank you for all of your endless referrals. Oh, it's so amazing. We have to make some announcements today, and I think this is the biggest announcement section I've ever put together.
I got confused looking at this. Is this the news? I mean, there's like 7, 8 of these.
I know.
9.
And so what sets announcements apart from the news categories is that this is stuff we've ostensibly already covered, or we're in the midst of covering it, and you listeners should be aware of the fact that we're covering it, and if you want to get more, you should tune in for more. So that's the thing. And the reason it's so big this week, Stephen, is because we've been crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. The very first thing, so let's kick it off with announcements. I don't know if there's a sound cue for this, but if there is, it's going to go right here. Announcements. Dive.
We have one now.
Are third-party battery-saving apps worth it? I like this one because this was a suggestion from me last week based on a piece of listener mail we received from Ganesh in India, who wrote us a piece of podcast mail that I was saving for an episode that Joe Levi would be on. But for whatever reason, we didn't get to this piece of mail on the last show. So I was like, oh, hey, Joe, why don't you write an editorial about this? Basically, the question was, are battery-saving apps that are present in abundance in the Play Store, do they work as advertised or are they all bogus? So this actually sounds really... Stephen, you were here last week. Did we do this one last week?
I don't know. I'm just looking at this now, and it seems like one of these stories, you know the rule, if a headline ends in a question mark, the answer is no.
Yeah, Bedridge's Law, yes.
Nah.
Yeah. So I don't know what Joe's conclusion is, but anyway, there's a whole... He's written an entire piece on this. It's really great, and I know that because it's Joe, not because I've read the whole thing, because, hey, busy. But anyway, Ganesh, we wanted to let you know that we did cover that. Joe Levi, the expert, handled that. And this is not in the rundown, but Joe Levi is already on episode 2 of the Pocketnow Power User.
Yeah, I got RAM today.
Yeah, we're talking about random access memory. Singular.
Epic.
Yeah, not plural. This is not a Daft Punk website, though sometimes I wish it could be. Guess which smartphone took these photos is the second piece of announcement material we have. This time we're on volume 4, and Taylor Martin has whipped it together. Whipped it up?
Real good.
Real good.
You must whip it. I cannot tell you, listeners, what device took these photos. Not because I don't know, because I do know, but because that's part of the game. Go and check out, I think he's got about 21 different photos on here from a mystery device that you don't know. He's given you some clues as well, and already 80 people have guessed in the comments, and I will tell you that as per usual, guys, what do you think? What's the accuracy ratio so far?
Well, some of them have to be with that many guesses.
Of course, yeah. I'm not saying it's 0%. There are some correct answers in there, yes.
I haven't looked over all the comments yet. I put in my own guess.
You did? What was your guess?
I'm saying Nexus 5. I have no knowledge of this. Just all of our listeners, do not go by what I'm saying. I have no idea. I'm just guessing Nexus 5 just because I want to guess Nexus 5.
And as you have no knowledge, I have no comment, sir. I am doing my very best to add no degree of clue-giving intonation or inflection to my response to you. I'm just talking too much. I just need to shut up. So anyway, Go play. Yeah, that's always the safe bet on a podcast. Shut your mouth. Go guess, everyone. It's a fun game, and you're not really doing anything else. You're listening to the podcast. So do go click on that. It's in the rundown.
Multitasking.
Ooh. So Motorola invited us down to New York City a couple days ago. I was there with Adam Lane. We got some hands-on time with the new Moto E. Adam, Doud, what device does the Moto E remind you of?
Well, I saw in your comparison you mentioned an HP Veer. I'm not sure I see it, but I guess maybe if it's open and doesn't have a keyboard. And
No. Okay, so if it's closed and you stick an air hose in the HP Veer and just kind of blow it up by like 40%, that's what this thing looks like. So maybe it just doesn't more like the Pre 2. Okay. So
yeah,
go with that a little bit.
Yeah, I could go with that.
I'm telling you, because when you look at the side of the ridge, like you've got the glossy plastic of the front of the thing mating with the dull back of the thing, and the first Pre did that. So maybe it looks like a Palm Pre. Anyway, it looks like a Moto E above all. Really, it's if you took listeners, if you took a Moto X and fattened it up, then you have a Moto G. If you took that same Moto G and put it in a compression chamber and like squeezed it down to about 75% of its original footprint, that's what the Moto E feels like. It's a little meatball. It feels great in the hand. I really like it. Some commenter, guys, tell me if this commenter was right. Some commenter once said that everything feels good in the hand, according to us. Like as though it's like the default thing when we don't know what to say on a hands-on. It's like, oh, it feels good in the hand. I don't know.
Hey, didn't we get called out on that a while back and have to scale it down?
I think we did, yeah. But I'm not lying, though. It does feel good in the hand. The E is certainly not the best looking thing I've ever laid eyes on, but it's got the dimple. It's got that swoop up top. Whatever.
I'm personally waiting for the device that feels mildly adequate in the hand.
Yes. Ain't gonna.
That's what I'm holding on for.
In the hand. No, and then of course you got these chrome strips up front, which nobody really likes, and I can't blame you.
A front-firing speakerphone.
Exactly. It is a front-firing speakerphone. The earpiece does not overpower to give you stereo, though. It's just the bottom one is the speaker. It's all right. It's still positioned properly. So my point in all this is that the hardware is not the problem with the Moto E necessarily, or the build is not, because it's got the water-repellent nano coating that's nice. Yes, the display is low-res, and yes, it's got crappy side visibility, but it's actually not that bad looking if you're a fan of greenish whites. Really, the issue here is that even though it's running stock KitKat, it's
slow.
Not only is it slow, it stuff crashes. Like I tried to watch a YouTube video last night embedded in a Cracked article, and it just completely it wouldn't do it. And then it timed out after a minute and said, "YouTube isn't responding. Do you want to close it?" Yeah, I guess I have no choice. Huh. Then today I'm in the middle of an SMS exchange in the Hangouts app, and my bottom row, like the home keys disappear, my notification shade disappear, and I've got full screen Hangouts that won't respond.
Awesome.
And no home button, and no
Hope you like Hangouts.
Yeah, there was nothing I could do, and so I had to restart it. So it's a Snapdragon 200 running KitKat, which is supposed to be less resource intensive, but it's a Snapdragon 200. I don't know. I don't know if there's optimization issues. It's got a gig of RAM. It shouldn't really have a problem doing multitasking at least.
Right.
And I can run games. Anyway, so the whole point is we're reviewing this thing, and we've done a comparison with the Moto G, and you should check it out.
You know what's interesting? I had two coworkers independently ask me right after the Moto E came out, should I get this?
Are you serious?
Dead serious. And to both of them I responded, spend the extra $50, guys. What are you doing?
Like, are you having money troubles? What?
Well, no, I'm just wondering if there's something about the $125 price point that's more compelling than the $175 price point, or $180, I guess, if you want to be technical.
It was $129 and $179.
Okay, yeah. But I mean,
I think there's a desire just to get a good deal, regardless of whether or not you actually need the phone. Like, was the other day, Michael, you mentioned that Amazon had that deal on, I think, the
Lumia
520.
Yeah,
like, oh, this is
$40 or something.
Yeah, super cheap. But I'm thinking about it, I don't really want this thing at all. I'm just really attracted to the savings.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I wonder if there's a magic number somewhere where if you can price a phone below this, you'll get a lot more interest. And because I mean, both of the guys that I talked to, when I said spend the extra $50, they're like, I don't know. I'm just like, really?
Yeah, no, that's true because, and I've talked about this on the show before, and it was about the Lumia 520. When that thing first came down to $59 and it was at the Microsoft store, we wanted one for a comparison with the Moto G. And so I was about to just go to the Microsoft store and buy one. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'll just go down the road and get one. And Anton was like, no, ask Nokia for one. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I asked Nokia for one, and they sent one for free, as they do. And I gotta say, I was a little disappointed. So isn't that weird? Like I wanted to get the deal, Stephen. I think you're exactly right. I wanted to say I spent $50 and I got a smartphone.
Yeah.
So we are, by the way, in that same. Who's got a soda gun in his apartment and is filling a cup with it?
That's me.
What do you live at a bar? Like what?
No. You have to understand this Yeti microphone. I mean, this thing could hear a gopher fart from two blocks away.
Is there not a mute button on your Yeti microphone?
Well, yeah, there is a mute button, but I'm pouring a cup of pop 3 feet away. It shouldn't be. Shouldn't be a problem.
Sorry, it's a cup of pop. Yes, indeed.
Well, okay. Yeah, I'm from Chicago, so we call it pop. But still, it's 3 feet away. This should not be a problem.
Give me some of your pop. Anyway,
I'll FedEx it to you.
Thank you. I want to let you. Now you want. See, I have a coffee. Now I want pop.
And see, now when you pour that, I'm going to hear it on my microphone.
No, you know what's funny? Like when I drink Polar Seltzer on the podcast, because I'm burping the whole way through. I'm drinking coffee this time. So anyway, what I was going to say was we have requested everyone a Lumia 525 from Nokia to compare with the Moto E because that's the adept comparison. That's what you want to do. We would do it with the 520 right now, but it's kind of unfair because the 520 is kind of yesterday's news. It is the 512 meg RAM loadout, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas the 525 brings a gig of RAM, so you have a gig of RAM against a gig of RAM, Windows Phone against Android, boom. Let's do it. So we'd like to do that, and if Nokia gets back to us, I'll let you know. Or, I guess if Microsoft gets back to us.
It's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, because I'm not going to go buy that because the 525 is like it's like the same price as the Moto E, which is another reason it needs to be compared face-to-face. So,
indeed.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll do that, despite the fact that I am so burned out on comparisons. That's so important that I would really like to do it. But in any case, the Moto E review will be coming quite soon. And another mid-ranger that we got our hands on, if you don't want to put up with a soft-touch paint job and a phone that kind of looks like a compacted, whatever I called it before.
Palm device.
A cross between the Veer and the G is the, I think, quite beautiful HTC One Mini 2. We got to look at this one, too. I don't remember when we got to look at this one, but we did. And this hands-on went up live this week, too. Have you guys seen the video? What do you think of it?
I have no strong opinions on
I'm on the podcast with the two biggest beat holders. Just going to let this dead air ride for a minute.
Maybe Michael will just start talking again.
Yeah. You understand? I have to take sips every now and then. So Stephen, tell me what your thoughts are on this brushed aluminum wonder.
Yeah, I'm just kind of a little let down by the whole thing. And I'm not sure exactly why. It's maybe it's just the phone wasn't presented with much fanfare. HTC just kind of dumped it on us midweek. Oh, here you go. Without any big promotion about it. And I mean, it sounds fine on the hardware side. It's not it's still not the dream of the shrunken down flagship. It takes a few sacrifices. It's got a 400 in there.
Yeah, the same thing as in the G, I think.
I mean, the 720p screen, nice to have, but it's just another mini phone. The only really standout thing is got that 13 megapixel camera, which I'm sure a lot of One M8 owners are a little jealous about.
And also the micro SD card slot up to 128 gigs as well.
Yeah. But I mean, on the face of it, the device itself is very beautiful. So I mean, it's gorgeous. It's just like the M8 in that particular aspect of it. So take that for what you will. I mean, if you don't mind having the downgraded specs, why would you want them? But moving on, it's just, the device itself is, I'm going to echo your point, it is beautiful.
But it's not small enough.
Oh, it's great though. So when last year when the One Mini came out, after the One, we all saw the pictures and we're like, oh, what a ugh. And honestly, I hated that glossy plastic rim they put around it. I think the first gen Mini was kind of a misstep. But now I'm looking at the One Mini 2, and they've corrected that. The plastic is still present around the rim, but it's much thinner and it's matte finish instead of glossy, so it kind of it looks pretty good. But also, the One Mini last year looked about the same size as the M7, but it also felt much smaller in the hand. That is the same case with this. I mean, in photos, it doesn't really come across, but you hold this thing in your hand, and it does feel substantially smaller, I will say that. I'm a little disappointed about the Snapdragon 400 myself. It's gorgeous. I mean, when the boxes came off for this thing, and I'm looking at them on the tabletop, I'm like, wow, I can't believe how much. I would rather carry this one, because it also doesn't have that stupid duo camera lens up top. You
prefer it over the M8?
The hardware, I prefer over the M8. Yeah, I mean, just the build, just because it is smaller, because it's more pocketable. I think it is substantially lighter. I don't have the spec sheet in front of me, but yeah, I'm holding it right now.
So what you're saying is you want exactly the phone I'm complaining we didn't get, which is just a shrunken down version of the flagship.
Yes, but at the same time, I have not had occasion yet to test the camera versus the One M8. We're going to do that whole comparison thing, and all those reviews, all that stuff is coming quite a bit later in the month, actually. So
I'll be expecting your phone call.
Yes, you should. Oh, right. Adam is in the comparison club now, too. Yeah.
Yep.
Steven's just like, whatever. I don't know. They sound the same.
Who are you? How'd you get my number?
One of the weird things that HTC said in our briefing was that the how the M7 was supposed to be 70% aluminum, the M8 is 90% according to HTC, and they're saying that this thing, the One Mini 2, is 50% aluminum. And I'm like, guys, that doesn't make any sense. The back is the same metal plate. The top and bottom, they're not faking it. The top and bottom are also metal. So and it wraps around the sides. Like, there is no possible way there's that much of a difference in the exterior build. In the materials ratio on the exterior build. So I think that was a bogus metric, and I don't.
Maybe it's an alloy.
Oh wow. So if it's like it looks the same, but it's actually an inferior.
It's like 70% aluminum. I don't know what alloys with aluminum.
Like 30%, like pot metal.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
That 14 karat aluminum. Yeah,
that's a solid point. See, I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask about that.
Maybe it's aluminum plated.
Maybe there's just less aluminum internally, frame wise, is what they're talking about.
It could be. I'm not sure. Anyway, this thing, the concerning point about this thing, and I knew there was something else that I wanted to talk about before we moved on, is the pricing. I mean,
too high.
Well, we don't know. We don't have official pricing from HTC yet, even though it's
going to be too high. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah, and the leaks we got from that Finnish retail site were something like $700.
Jeez.
But those are just leaks, right? And we don't have. I'm not convinced that HTC even has decided on a price point yet, but who knows? But if it is in that neighborhood, and you've got devices like the Moto G, which are very similarly spec'd, selling for, a quarter of that, or less.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's gonna take more than a little bit of aluminum to get you to pony up that dough.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, I understand the whole point of bringing the flagship experience to a lower to the mid-tier range. And for all I know, the M8 does that very well, but it ain't, man, when there's that kind of a price gulf, you've got to be coating this thing in something a little more fancy than aluminum, I think. But we don't know the price yet, so I'm just that's just speculative speaking there. But anyway, the One Mini 2 hands-on is up. Go check it out. Our photos are up of the device as well. Whew. We're almost done with the announcements. God, all right. I need to take a sip.
Only 7 or 8 more to go.
Yeah. We're only 24 minutes in. We got time.
And speaking of high-end stuff, I was about to say the Lumia, the Xperia Z2 from Sony. We have reviewed that thanks to our friends at GSM Nation. The purple phone, the purplest phone I've ever reviewed. I gave this thing quite a score. We need to revise our scoring metrics. I'm not saying the score is incorrect, but I had to play some stupid games to get this score the place I wanted it to, because I knew I wanted it to be a point higher than the One M8. And to do that, I had to make some ratios happen with hardware, software, and user experience that were annoying, and it was really irritating.
You had to cook the books.
And I didn't. And I specifically avoided cooking the books. I was like, man, I got to look at all these reviews and make sure this is lining up properly. Oh, sorry about that. But at any rate, this device was scored very, very high, and it deserves every bit of that score. Taylor Martin has it right now. He's doing a comparison with the Lumia Icon. And there's a Chinese wholesaler trying to sell company brand clothing in our comments, who I'm deleting. He is gone. And at some point in the future, I would like to combine the scored for me metrics with our actual scoring. But it's going to be part of a different overhaul. But does this device incite any desire in either of you gentlemen, or are you just so crestfallen? Yeah,
I love me some Sony phones. Well, they look really nice. I mean, I hear all these horrible things about reliability, hardware, build quality problems, but they look really nice. I'm a fan of Sony's UI. I like them. They're just not really presented for the U.S. audience, so we don't get really much of a chance to interact with them.
That is the big shame about this entire situation. Yeah, it's like Sony has some really amazing stuff and seldom brings that amazing stuff to the U.S. in a big way. But, Stephen, I think after our conversation last podcast, I think we have some more verification now that this thing is probably coming to Verizon. Isn't that right?
I'm not buying it.
You're still not buying? I mean, isn't everyone saying it at this point?
There's been no new evidence.
Hasn't there?
No, there's been those 2 official Sony renders that had the Verizon logo on it. And they're not popping up in the West at all. They're being on the Slovakian Facebook page or the Korean website. And I don't know, man. I mean, they exist for a reason. I'm just not yet convinced it's because this phone is happening.
All right. Yeah, 4 days. I don't know if we were reporting on this, but 4 days ago, Android Central was saying was showing off some. Yeah, it's that underwater photo of the guy holding the phone in the rain, and there's a Verizon logo on the back of it.
Yep.
It's like, okay, all right. I don't know. What about you, Adam? Would you buy a Sony phone if you were shopping in the Android domain and they were available?
That's a lot of ifs, but yeah, it's a very compelling piece of hardware, and it's just I'm not sold on the Sony software experience just yet, but I haven't used it as a daily driver, so I've got that going against me. Yeah. Yeah, I mean everything from what I've read, it looks like it's a very solid experience. It's weird that they're putting their app store next to the Google tray, but I'd get over that.
That's software is my number one complaint, of course. Which is a shame because I actually like the Xperia, the shell, the Sony UI on the tablets. I think it's beautiful on the tablet, and even on the Z1 Compact, it actually wasn't that bad. But they're I don't know why Sony has decided to use Samsung as the model for this, where it's like, wow, they're getting away with a lot of crap on, throwing a lot of bloat into their thing. We're going to go ahead and do that even worse in some ways. Some commenters took issue with my assertion that it is worse than Samsung in some ways. Guess what? It is, because Samsung's going the other direction and Sony's going the wrong direction. So that's the problem.
Right. And there was a battery capacity issue, if I read correctly?
On mine, but I'm apparently the only one in the world who's having that problem. And it's not even a problem. It's just that the screen on time is about 4.5 hours, which is normal. Yeah. But for a 3,400 milliamp hour battery,
you expect more.
Yeah, I do.
Right.
But apparently, everyone else is getting more, so I'm an idiot or something. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. Maybe it could be because we're testing this model in the U.S. There could be a network compatibility thing.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. How's the waterproofiness? Did you get a chance to test that without
Did you
killing
break it yet?
I haven't broken it yet. No. Thankfully, it still survives. We're spending our last day with it now. I did test it at the bottom of a fountain. I got some really beautiful shots, I think, which I was really quite proud of in the video review. And that purple just glows underwater. It's unbelievably cool looking. It handled itself very well underwater. The underwater photography is brilliant.
Nice.
Oh, God, it does a good job underwater. Yeah, wonderful little device. Oh, and I think probably the most important assertion I made, this is like the me show. I wish that I weren't talking about me so much, but I'm almost done. The Android, it is the best camera experience you can get on an Android phone, I think.
Ah, okay.
Taking everything into account. I'm not saying the photo quality is the best. I think the GS5 beats it a little bit, but between the hardware button, the software load, the features, and the stabilization in particular, Z2 is just, I think it's like the icon, the Lumia icon of the Android world, and we'll see which one Taylor crowns the winner when he's done with today's comparison.
I wonder if it's really noticeably better than the Z1. I mean, we saw some leaks earlier on that were trying to establish that the Z2's camera performance was significantly enhanced, and that's interesting because the hardware, I think, is almost identical between the two.
I think the hardware is quite similar, yeah. So the Z1, of course, had that massive software problem when it launched, and it had that digital noise that was just hilarious. It was so bad. And, they did get around to fixing that, I think, at some point. But by that point, we were done with the Z1, and we had moved on, and we couldn't after the buzz it because I don't know why.
One question I wanted to ask you. You mentioned in your review, you specifically mentioned in your review the ability to launch a camera right from standby. Now, this is not the first phone to do this, but how fast is that?
It's like 2 or 3 seconds. It takes a second to boot. It's not the fastest loading camera ever.
I once recommended to Tony, and I should really recommend this again, but I would love to see a video comparing the startup times of cameras from standby. The various mechanisms for it, just to see which one does it fastest. I think that would be interesting.
That's a good idea. You shoot me an email on that so that we can set it up before somebody who's listening to this podcast does it first.
That's true. I'm picturing the most interesting thing about this test is going to be the rig you need to build to tap all the screens simultaneously.
All at once?
I'm thinking like
set a timer on each one.
You know the thing you would use to draw musical stabs on a chalkboard?
Yeah,
like that, but with fingertips.
That's a good call.
I was thinking just a timer, but okay, whatever.
This is better. It's more fun.
Let's see. I want to just briefly mention here that the Galaxy S5 has been reviewed yet again. Taylor Martin reviewed the Verizon version, calling it, and I rather like his headline, a safe bet with a side of dull. Even better is Taylor's YouTube video. Great performance. What's it called? Great performance, no personality.
Ouch.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who just had her GS3 run over by a bus.
Whoa.
And so, she posted that on Facebook, and I said, "Oh, what are you going to replace it with?" She said, "Probably the GS5." I said, "Well, that's arguably probably one of the best, but one of the most boring flagship phones out there. So go for it, have fun."
Zap.
It is.
It's going to get some hatred.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that it's boring. I think that the industrial design is quite boring, but I don't think the device as a whole can be called boring.
Every time I think about it, my heart rate goes up, which I can tell now because I put my finger over the camera.
Wait, what? Oh, the heart rates?
Yes.
Sorry, I got stuck.
I went a long way to make that joke work, so just go with it.
Go with it. All right. Well, if you have an S5 or you're interested in an S5, but you would be more interested in it if it could charge wirelessly, I know there's only a few of you out there, but I know you do exist. You're like me. We are kindred spirits. You can get an accessory for it called the S5 PWR card or power card. Which is a Qi-enabled accessory that you basically just stick onto the back of the phone under the battery cover.
Nice.
And it enables Qi wireless charging. Taylor did this. What?
Wait a second. Isn't there an official wireless charging back for the GS5?
Well, Samsung keeps promising it, but I think, isn't it late? Like they all have been? Galaxy S5. I got to stop putting the space between S and 5. Galaxy S5 Qi wireless charging on Google says, so there's a couple products that promise that there's the power card for $24.99.
Android Central. It's got a video of the thing in action.
Samsung.com S5 charging S-View flip cover. Oh, God, it's awful. This is that one with the big old window in the front? Are we looking at the same thing?
But they have just a regular back one with no cover.
Oh, okay, good. Well, then, yeah, I guess the official one is out. I don't know. Maybe it's more expensive. It probably is. How much does it cost?
Let's see. It's on Samsung's site for $30. That's still coming soon from the official. Yeah.
Still coming soon. That's the thing. So what they must have gotten a pre-release one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I don't know. The point is that this one is cheap. It's from Clove is where we got it, and it's really easy to install. Like you take the back cover off, you slap this pad on the back of your phone, you plug in the port, and then you put the cover back on.
What's this guy?
That makes me happy.
What's it going for? $24.99.
And it's a little cheaper.
It makes me happy too, but two things that would really prevent me from probably going for it. One, it does give you a bulge on the back cover, which is not fun.
Yeah. Deal breaker.
Yeah, and two, that bulge means it may jeopardize the immersion resistance of the gasket. Because the gasket can't seat against the surface on the inside when this thing is in there.
Right.
Happiness stolen.
Yeah, I'm going to pay the extra $5 for the official one.
Yeah, big downer there. But the install was cool. It was quick. It was a jiffy. And as usual, the comments turned into a circus when people accused Taylor's exhaustion for lack of enthusiasm just because it's a Samsung product. And yes, we're paid by everyone else but Samsung to hate Samsung products. So,
all right.
Let's jump into the news because, guys, guess what? We're done with announcements.
I was about to say we haven't yet.
Half hour worth of the podcast and we're done with announcements. You can see how busy it's been, and we are grateful for all the busy. So thanks to everyone for reading everything. What say we cover a little bit of iOS news? Stephen?
Yeah, so remember that news about Apple snatching up Beats for a ridiculous sum of money?
I vaguely recall that.
Yeah, and rumors are now saying that this deal might not be going through as soon as we had initially thought.
So Dr. Dre is going to have to wait to become the first billionaire hip-hop artist?
Yeah, because rumors are saying it was going to be confirmed this week, and then that has not happened yet. So something is holding this up, or we haven't gotten official confirmation for some reason.
Maybe it's errant Facebook videos.
Well, it doesn't sound like there's any deal breaker, like Apple may have. No one's saying that this deal might be off. It's just, for whatever reason, it's taken a while for them to own up to it.
I should tell you guys that a friend of the family is named Drew, and for some reason long ago he picked up the nickname Dr. Dre because he's a doctor. So, there you go. So
Dr. Drew is also a celebrity we could go with.
It's not as fun, though, right? So,
I'm going to say he fell on the right side of that particular nickname. So
I think you're right. Yeah. And he sent an email to all of us when this news dropped. He said, imagine the joy I had when I woke up to the news that Dr. Dre was a billionaire. I was picking out yachts and expensive real estate. All this before 7 a.m. That's a good start to the day.
Remember the other Dr. Dre from MTV Raps?
Oh, no, I don't remember. There's more than one Dr. Dre?
I muted there because I was typing.
Oh,
yeah.
What was going on? Yeah?
Was he the fat guy? And Ed Lover?
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is an area of pop culture.
You guys don't watch enough MTV Raps, seriously.
Yeah, I know.
Where were you in the early 90s?
Pick that up. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I think we just lost a couple thousand listeners.
I think I was reading Deep Space Nine novels. So that's reportedly delayed after all the business. So basically what this means is we're going to have a big trough here where we're not going to talk about it for a while. And then when it closes, we'll have all the same conversations again that we had a week ago.
Yes.
And that'll be fun.
All of them will start off with the word why.
Yeah, that's true. And I think some of the answers out there were pretty compelling that we covered last episode, some of the theorized answers. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't want to talk about it much this week, but we just thought we'd talk about why no one's talking about it this week. And it's because it's reportedly delayed.
There's nothing to see here. Move on.
What if I were, Stephen, moving from the iPhone to another phone? Would I have a problem in that port?
Yeah, maybe. But this isn't exactly a new issue. So this is a problem that's been reported on and off for quite a while now, where there's something weird with the way that I guess, text messages get routed through iMessage. And so if you had everything set up with Apple, you've been getting everything through your iPhone, and then you move that number onto an Android phone, something on a different platform, somewhere along the line, when the internet pipes and all, things get confused, and people aren't getting their messages coming through to their new phone. They're still trying to get sent through iMessage, and there's no easy solution. And if you call Apple and complain enough, sometimes that helps. If you do all these elaborate things with moving SIMs back and forth and activating phones in the right order, maybe that will help. This is just one of those weird bugs that have been around for ages, and there's no clear sign of it getting better. This is like with Android. I always have something where Gmail just email sits in my outbox for like an hour and just doesn't go off the phone. And reports of it are all over the internet. There's no obvious fix. You can fiddle with airplane mode all you want. Sometimes these things work, sometimes they don't.
I'm kind of looking at the comment thread now, and that's the overriding thing on all sites reporting this on this issue, is that this isn't a new bug. Why is it new? Apparently, it's only new because Adam Pash recently ran into this thing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
I mean, every once in a while, sometimes we do need these bugs to gain a little publicity in the hopes that maybe the companies will finally do something about them.
Yeah, and if you're having this problem, you should know that there are a couple solutions out there that that may work, and especially at the source link. If you visit Adam Pasha's blog, he's got a list of sort of...
But I think none of them worked for him.
Well, none of those worked for him, but then he's got an update down at the bottom where he's something worked for him in the short term. And actually in the comments on our own story, there's a couple fix attempts you can try there. Frankly, this isn't too big a surprise to me. I know it's not new, but this is what happens when you interject, when you throw in a third party between the between the carrier and the and the content. It's like, okay, the carrier's network is expecting to handle this through the short message service, but no, this is going to be an intermediary. And then when you switch away from that, we've been having these problems. On all my friends who try to talk to me on iMessage, like all those messages go to an iPad that I haven't turned on in about 3 months. So I don't know. I never know what's going on, and if they're an older generation that doesn't necessarily know the difference, then they can't tell when it's an iMessage, when it's an SMS, and it's just kind of a big mess. Maybe the solution is just to give up SMS. What do you guys think?
I guess voice call everyone.
The solution is just
That's what I'm saying. I've been saying that for years.
Go back to landlines.
Yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to mention that just in case you're running into a problem like that, there are some solutions that have been floated that seem to be giving some people some respites from troubles. So anyway, moving into Android. I asked Stephen Schenck to look into this whole Galaxy S5 Prime nonsense.
What's up with that?
What is up with it? See, this is my question. First of all, I've always been skeptical about this thing in terms of it seems like, because it's not the only Prime out there. The HTC One M8 Prime or something is also being rumored by, and it seems to me that like Prime rumors are the places people go to when they're disappointed by the product that was officially announced, and that they're manufacturing something else out of whole cloth from their imaginations.
I get a lot of the sense that this is something that we're developing, because I don't think we have seen any smartphone arrive with a Prime version after the flagship launches. It's just we came up with this name somehow, and now we're attaching it to all these dreams of slightly upgraded hardware refreshes.
Yeah.
Is there any fact behind any of this? Well, I mean, the S Prime does look like it's happening, or at least something that's better than the GS5 is happening. Whether it's called that or not, who knows? And we know Samsung, vehemently denied those rumors of there being a new version of the GS5. This may launch as something branded differently. We know with the Galaxy K, Samsung is not adverse to creating these not weird, but unexpected brands out of nowhere. So it might not be the Prime, but it looks like it's going to happen. 2K display, Snapdragon 805, nice beefy specs. It might have an aluminum or metal body. And it could be here really soon. Maybe not. I mean, we heard stuff last month talking about how it was still not even a finalized design yet. And now this month we're hearing it could launch as soon as June. So I don't know how trustworthy that is. I'd say by the end of summer, that'd be likely. But the next couple of weeks, maybe.
I may have missed this detail, but we're getting this from the Bluetooth certification. Is that right?
No, that was just the latest place it popped up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We're also seeing the Play Edition there as well. It's like,
The Play Edition, I think, is the more interesting part of that rumor because we didn't have a model number for that before.
Right, and the model number lines up perfectly with last year's S4 Google Play Edition model number, right?
Yeah. So I mean, and we saw it on the on Google's listing of Google Play devices last week or 2 weeks ago, where they had the thumbnail of the GS5 where the GS4 should have been.
Right.
So this one feels like it's right about to happen.
All right. Well, in the interim, the S5 hasn't been doing terribly poorly in its stock self.
It sold a few.
A couple.
Now, I was really pleased to see that Rithvik answered the question that I had immediately when reading this headline. The headline is, Galaxy S5 sales have reached 11 million units, says co-chief executive. And I immediately asked, well, how does that compare to last year's S4 sales? Because I want to know. We have alternating reports of doom and gloom. It's not doing as well. And others like, yeah, it's doing fine. Well, it seems to be the latter. The phone has sold more than 11 million units since going on sale in early April. For comparison, last year's flagship S4 sold around 10 million units in about the same time period.
But didn't we have all these complaints last year that even though the GS4 was selling like hotcakes, Samsung was still a little dissatisfied with how well it was doing?
Yeah, and there were rumors that they were ramping up to release an early release.
Yeah, so maybe they would prefer to have 12 million sales. It's never good enough.
That's the question, right? I mean, what's the growth rate? I mean, that's not, that may as well be the same, 11 million units versus 10 million. So
the market's bigger this year.
Right, and if they were expecting to see more, if they were expecting to see a 50% growth or whatever, and I don't know, that seems pretty extreme. I don't know, Adam. What are your thoughts?
Just a little bit. I mean, it is a 10% increase, so I mean, it's not insignificant. It's not great, but I mean, maybe we've hit that. Now that the GS3 has been out and the GS4 has been out, now it's the GS5, maybe we're starting to hit that plateau where people are starting to upgrade their older phones, their GS3s with the GS5s. And maybe more people maybe Samsung just did too good a job 2 years ago and they're like, yeah, well, maybe I could just hold on to this GS3 for another year and see what the S6 brings.
Right.
It could very well be. I mean, if you're going to go by those, the 2-year cycle, the GS3 is still, we've said it as recent. I've seen it said as recently as a couple of weeks ago that the GS3 is still a solid offering, in today's smartphone space. So maybe there's just not enough incentive to upgrade, except a heart sensor.
That's pretty interesting. Well, no,
I go by that thing.
And the immersion, resistance. There's stuff here that you can use to sell this thing to ordinary people and not spec heads. Certainly, I think some of the new commercials have been really interesting for the S5, where they're appealing more to the emotional side. We've thankfully put away last year's sort of smarmy, tongue-in-cheek digs at other platforms and the stupid office humor things, those.
See, I like those kind of
ads. I hated those. I couldn't stand them. They're like that S4 flip cover commercial with some of them just made no sense. It's like the punchline would land and the commercial would be over. I'm like, what? Wait, I didn't get the joke. Was there a joke? Was that a joke? Because the music told me I should be expecting a joke, but no, it sucked. So no, this year's ads are way better. I think. I think they're more clear. They're simpler and they're better at appealing to at least my emotions. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone. But, I don't know. It's no surprise to me, I guess, that the S5 is off to a fairly strong start here. So,
yeah.
Speaking of ads, the HTC One M8 has a new promo vid starring, once again, Gary Oldman.
Back with more of the same, HTC.
Oh, boy.
I was so confused when I watched this commercial.
I want to have you... Yeah, tell me, Adam.
Because he starts off with this, with the metronome, click, click, click. Yeah. You like this smartphone. Yeah. This is a great smartphone. Then he turns around and says, you don't have to hypnotize people. Okay, well, isn't that what you just did?
That is a delight there, Adam.
Yeah, it's like if Gary Oldman grew up like in a more working class section of the UK.
Sorry, sometimes my Cockney slips out, you know?
God.
Governor?
Oh, stop it. Stop it. We just lost all of the UK. They just all tuned in. So yeah, but no, the premise of this commercial is once again that like, okay, you know, thanks for asking me for how you should feel about this phone. Go ask the internet. I'm not going to tell you how to think. But actually, no, it's really cool. Like, right? That's the kind of subtext we're supposed to be taking here, and it's like,
right.
I'm watching it again. It's in my earphones right now.
And don't listen to me.
Internet users can't be wrong. Even if all the billions of internet users are still saying, 4? Come on!
I'm just a little let down. It feels like B-roll from the last series of ads. I mean, it's a month or two removed. What? Give me something more, HTC. Come on. Push this thing.
But you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give props to Gary Oldman because that's like the best acting gig ever.
No, like, yeah, it is. But he doesn't need it.
Acting right? Like he loves the One M8.
but the thing is, like, I wish that I had more data on how these are landing, because you know, the HTC press releases on the marketing are only going to focus on the positive. Obviously, the people who are already going to hate on the M8 in the comments for its perceived deficiencies are already going to say they suck, and I'm just confused. I'm stuck in the middle, like looking at them, going like, wow, I sure wish that this commercial did more to tell me more about the device.
Anything, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Don't ask me to go ask somebody else why the device is great. You tell me why the device is great. But that's okay your job.
Like, yeah, but I understand the desire not to have someone just there as a flack and just be like, hey, this is Gary Oldman for HTC, and look at the One M8. Look at all the things it can do. Like, that's boring. I get the idea that you want to take a different stab at it, but this commercial has so little, and the one before it have so little time allocated to actually showing the device. I don't need to look at Gary Oldman for that long. I don't need that to get the tone of the commercial. You can do this while showing more of the phone and while piquing curiosity about more elements of it, without this kind of direct-to-camera, strange, weirdo, rainy night, dark room metronome stuff.
And
like, it just
was the phone even in the commercial? Now I'm wondering.
What?
Was the phone even in the commercial?
Yeah,
it's in there.
He's holding it. He interacts with it.
Yeah.
I'm just getting this weird sense from these HTC ads where it's in this, and it was in that one Robert Downey Jr. spot for the M8, where they look right into the camera and they're like, "I love this smartphone," and you don't believe a word of it. When other companies use celebrities in their advertising, I remember Apple did the Siri stuff. It's showing people using the phone, enjoying it, but I don't know if they actually, just tell us, we love this phone. This is the best smartphone. Go get it. I feel like HTC doesn't get how to use celebrities to their best effect. And
I don't think celebrities can be used to any real effect. I mean, we always complain about that, right? I always think that's kind of the wrong thing to do. Because as much as I respect the need to relaunch a brand campaign, and as much as I love Robert Downey Jr., like, I couldn't bring myself to like any of those spots. I was like, okay, this is weird. Yes, is it getting people talking? It's getting us talking. Is it getting people talking? I don't know.
Is this airing on TV at all? Do you guys know?
The Gary Oldman ad?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the first one a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one in forever, but I'm still watching DVR stuff from March, so don't go by what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, actually, me too, but that's where I'm seeing all the old stuff, all the Gary Oldman ads.
I think I saw a pre-2 commercial on one of the shows that I was watching. That's how far behind I am.
Yeah. So I don't mean to crap all over this. It's just that it seems comparing HTC to Samsung, which is what I like to do in terms of their advertising, because that's the number one gulf between these companies, and
anytime we talk
driving Samsung superiority.
Smartphone advertising, we have to bring up Samsung.
Absolutely.
Right.
And Samsung is actively getting better. Of course, they were saturating the market before, and they're still taking that approach by rebranding an entire frickin' terminal at Heathrow for 2 weeks with, the Samsung Galaxy S5 terminal. Like, what? But, that is, I don't know how effective that particular element of the approach is, but that's symptomatic of their entire approach, which is just to hit everything as hard as they can everywhere with a lot of money. And the important thing to me is that Samsung's getting better in terms of the TV spots, the quality of the spots, and I think. Whereas HTC, well, I don't know if these are necessarily better than the old 1X parachute jumper ads. They're certainly different. I don't know if they're better.
Yeah. Only we could get Gary Oldman up in an airplane.
Probably.
With a hipster troll, perhaps?
Perhaps. Is it just that I don't know. Anyway, I think we should move on to a different form of advertising in a second. But right now, Stephen, will you please tell us what the HTC One Remix is? Because this is actually kind of exciting to me.
Yeah, well, it's looking like Verizon might rebrand the One Mini 2 as the One Remix when it finally arrives later this summer. And we saw this One Remix name pop up, I think earlier this week. EvLeaks just offered the name, and that's it. And, of course, drives wild speculation. You know, what the hell is this thing? Is this remix sounds kind of musical? Is this like the Heyman Cadron Sprint thing? Is this, we had no idea. So it'd be weird for Verizon to do this. Do we often see Verizon cook up new names for phones? I mean, there's like with the Motorola's, the Droids, they get launched as Milestone internationally, but they're initially put forward like that. It's not often I think we hear about Verizon just cooking up a fresh name out of the blue for a phone that's already been announced.
Yeah, well,
so I'm not clear what they're thinking here.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Verizon does that all the time. Like they did it with the Droid DNA. They'll take those LG mid-rangers and rebadge them.
Oh, yeah.
Verizon Vivid or some garbage. It's like...
Who came up with the Icon name? Was that a Nokia thing? Or was that a Verizon thing?
Icon, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, because the Icon's the 930. Yeah. So I think Verizon's pretty prolific in terms of renaming smartphones.
Well, new complaint then. Okay. One Remix sounds like it's going to be the One Prime or something. It sounds like a hardware refresh. A remix is like you take the original and you mix it up a little, but it's improved. It's more danceable or something. This is smaller. It's less powerful. I don't think they should have called it the One Remix. People are going to be comparing it negatively to the M8.
So,
absolutely.
I'm going to disagree here. I think Remix is a pretty cool brand name for this because I'm not sure that people instantly associate Remix with better. I think that many people probably just look at Remix and say, "Oh, that's different," and that's what this is. It's a different and it's a more compelling name than like the Mini, because I think, thanks to what we always complain about.
That's because they've ruined what Mini means.
Exactly. The Mini branding is absolutely in the trash because of...
the way to fix that is by releasing better Mini devices, not by calling them different things.
Well, I agree, but if the OEMs are not going to do that based on the data and I always ask HTC about this, I always ask Samsung about this, I'm like, guys, we have a lot of people asking for high-end mini phones, and you guys keep putting out kind of mid-range mini phones, and they're confident in their data. That's all I can say. Like they and I don't know. Do we have any sales numbers that say they're wrong? Like, are the minis just completely eating it?
I mean, I got to believe that they're right. If these phones had the same kind of demand that we think they do, they'd be making them. These companies aren't fools. They want to make money. And I'm reminded of something we don't...
The pressure comes from the carriers, too, as well, by the way. The carriers are asking for these. And yeah, but go ahead. What were you going to say?
It's not on the rundown, but earlier this week, or maybe it was late last week, they'll run together at this point. There was some comments made by one of the guys from a design team who'd been working on Project Ara and the endoskeletons. And he was saying that he's been showing people these different designs, and we've normally been talking about the middle. There were 3 endo designs that were released with the module development kit. There's a big one, a middle one, and this teeny tiny. It looks sort of uselessly small one, but apparently he has gotten this great user response showing them this smaller one because these people see this as an opportunity to slide in the higher end modules to build a smaller phone that still has the specs of a flagship. Maybe this is the only way we're actually going to get this thing. If the OEMs aren't making them, we can just build it ourselves.
Hey, I'm not prepared to sit here and say you wrong. That sounds pretty cool. I don't know. I kind of like this brand name a little bit. I'm sorry. I know you were trying to make a larger point, and I brought us back down.
No, I'm not interested in hearing your point, Stephen.
no, it's a good one. I'm sorry. I was momentarily distracted because it's...
Just keep walking.
Well, I don't know, but Stephen, would you say that, or Adam, either one, would you say that HTC One Remix is a better brand name than HTC One Mini 2?
I don't know. I think of Remix as in Steven's thinking, it's basically just a reshuffle of the same parts. So I don't see why I don't see a lesser device being a remix. I see a lesser device being a lesser device.
And I see it being
It's like, if we want to stick with the musical terms, it's like the demo compared to the finished album.
Oh yeah.
Wow. HTC One demo
single.
There you go.
HTC One B-side.
Well, I like complaining about things. I also think that One Mini 2 is a lousy name. You got to have the M8 in there.
Yeah, One Mini 2 is a pretty lousy name.
One Mini 2 M8?
I agree. No, just the One Mini M8, or the One M8 Mini, rather.
Yeah.
Like that.
I'm personally looking forward to buying an AT&T 4G LTE HTC One Mini 2 M8.
Yeah, and thank God we don't see so much of that as much anymore. Oh, God, yeah.
Squared.
Well, let's finish up our Android conversation talking about another major manufacturer, one that's going to get a lot of spotlight time later in the month.
Ooh.
The LG, the one and only.
G3.
The G3 is coming out, and its laser has gotten a new explanation, a new possible explanation.
One that's actually starting to make sense.
Is it strapped to the top of a shark's head?
I still think nice. I still think this is not a. I think this is an IR port.
It looks. It's funny because the more we hear about the things this possibly could be, the more the more convinced I'm becoming this is just a plain old IR transceiver.
Yeah, but what's the latest thing? It's supposed to be what, a focus assist laser.
Yeah, like one of those things you have on a larger standalone point and shoot where it projects a little pattern or something out onto the scene, and then by looking at the light coming back, it can focus better.
Oh,
which sort of makes sense.
Yeah, when people with fancy cameras, like they take the shot, and right before the shot, you've got that like red grid on stuff for the red diamond.
Yeah.
Are those the lasers?
No, traditionally not.
Then forget it.
I'm sorry, guys. Can I just get this out of the way?
Yeah.
All I want is a smartphone with a freaking laser beam strapped to its head. Sorry. Okay, I'm done.
You know, I used an Austin Powers graphic for a post recently, and I don't think it was related to this. That was a mistake on my part.
Oh.
So that was for the billion download Gmail app. That's what it was. 1 billion.
Billion.
Just can't do it.
I think I'm going to cater all of my editorial ideas this weekend so I can use a header image of Dr. Evil.
I would appreciate
It's important
if you didn't do that.
For to keep things topical. That's a current reference.
It's very important to make all of our search result returns look like they're from 2002. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
So
my work here is done.
But I'd say this laser, when we first heard the laser rumor, it wasn't described very clearly, but it was specifically about improving performance in low light conditions. Now, I assumed that meant some sort of illumination, but it also makes sense. It's hard to focus when you can't see the scene in the first place. I mean, the autofocus uses parallax comparisons and whatnot. If there's not a lot of photons coming into the lens in the first place, that's difficult. So it kind of makes sense that using a bright laser illuminator with this grid pattern, whenever it projects to make the focus work.
Adam, you're making the world shake.
Low light.
Stephen, keep going.
I mean, it makes sense. Focus would work faster in low light conditions, so it does fit with the first rumor. It's consistent, at least. But I guess it doesn't look like it. It's small, and if it's black, then that would assume that the dark black plastic that we see for infrared windows is actually very dark red, and that means you need a infrared or a red beam, and those aren't the most efficient lasers and all this. Like you said, I'm still leaning towards it being an infrared transceiver.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Let's talk about the renders that came along with it. I mean,
a bunch of these.
I love that you updated the post 20 minutes after you posted it with, seeing as it's been more than 10 minutes since the last G3 leak, of course there's a new one available. So these renders look really good. This phone continues to look better and better the more I see it on the hardware side. There's some texturing on the back-mounted volume keys, it looks like, along with a sort of a subtle moire on the power standby key in the middle of it. There's a two-tone flash, it looks like. We don't know if this is going to be a metal back, but it's probably in all likelihood going to be plastic that's detailed to look like metal, right?
Like those Samsung the last days of Hyperglaze.
Or like the Ativ, which the Ativ family had a nice had a nice fake metal on it that actually looked really good. Then Samsung put hyperglaze on top of it, so it felt as slimy as ever, but it really looked like real metal. I mean, it still does. I think the Ativ SE still has that, where it really does look like metal. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that'll be something similar. Maybe it's something that feels a little bit better, though. And then there's that chin that you don't like down below the screen, Steven. But
I'm going around to it. I like the look at the front of this thing. It's just that screen's so big.
It really is, and it goes edge to edge almost. There's almost no room in the top for the earpiece because the screen stretches up so far. And then down below you've got this chin that, unless my eyes are deceiving me, looks like it too has some sort of subtle moire pattern.
I think if we had the full res, it wouldn't look quite so distorted like that.
Oh, maybe.
But this is... Speaking of chins, this just reminded me of something I wanted to ask you guys. So I'm on Craigslist a little earlier today, looking around. I'm going to see what's being sold in the area, any garage sales or anything. A guy 5 miles away has a T-Mobile G1 for sale. He wants $5 for. Do I need this thing?
Oh, you've got to get it. Yes.
I think I have to get it.
Jump on it.
It's got a noble chin on it.
Absolutely. It's got a great chin. I mean, I've got one that we bought for the throwback. I mean, that you can just have. But you should spend $5 to go get it.
If you want to save that $5.
Yeah, if you want, but if you want to feel the thrill of the deal, you should go get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
That's what appeals to me.
Yeah. Well, this thing just looks beautiful, this G3, and it's got this this curvaceous construction with this really crafty, deceptive mid-plate on it. When you look at it from the bottom on the side there, it gives the phone the impression of a Galaxy Round type construction, even though the screen is not curved. Yeah, that's cool.
Is it just me, or does that headphone jack look way too small, though?
It looks tiny. Is that what that's supposed to be, a headphone jack?
That has to be
a headphone jack.
I don't know.
From the top
we don't
or
see
from
the
the
top.
bottom?
No, because that's from the...
That is the top. The bottom would have the USB.
Oh, you're right. I'm dumb. So that is the top. So wait, no. That's not what that is. That's a noise-canceling mic and an IR port. Oh, and if that's the IR port, then we're back to laser.
Oh, and that's a much better place for an IR port.
Yes, it is. Interesting. You're right, because that can't be the bottom. I thought that was the bottom. That cannot be the bottom. It has to be the top.
It must be the bottom.
Yeah.
But it's too small for it. Oh, it's curious. At any rate, the speaker's still around the back, and that sucks. That doesn't suck as much as the software looks like it sucks. So this render with the screen on that you used as the title image here, Stephen, is great because we're seeing this wonderful standby screen with this red and blue kind of smoke. And this thing that LG is putting in its renders, it's like a circular clock widget.
Yeah.
That is really quite beautiful. I think that's gorgeous. But every time we see leaks of the software running underneath that lock screen, like the Optimus UI, the regular LG UI, I mean, yeah, it's been flattened, but tell me this thing doesn't look awful to you guys.
I voiced my...
Did you?
Not being so offended as you on another podcast.
Oh, did we talk about this already?
Did not go over well, so I am going to bite my tongue.
Wait, that didn't go over what? No, you didn't shout it down.
I think it looks fine. I don't have any major objection to it. I have not interacted with it. I don't have a lot of experience with the UI on LG phones, so it doesn't look as bad to me as I think it does to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to withhold judgment as I always do until I actually see the thing in action. But I just hope these leaks are not right because already we've got these software things.
No, let's not withhold judgment. I think we should start a review series of judging books by their cover. Yeah, as we do a review just looking at the box of the smartphone.
LG G3 render review.
Yes,
4,000.
I was going to say the hands off impressions.
That's not a bad idea for generating a very short, very intense spike of traffic before losing our entire audience forever.
It could be a video with like the MST 3000 guys.
Yes, down in the bottom. Oh, that's a good idea, dude.
Yeah.
I like that. Hey, whatever is going to happen with this actual release, I have to say that this is the best and most intense teaser I have ever encountered.
In a world.
Seriously, like the LG teaser for this phone has got more sense and more intensity to its like music than any sci-fi movie, including Into Darkness, has ever been teased. And like you've got these jump shots, these inserts of like dust dancing on the speaker and like impact Inception synth.
LG G3 brought to you by Skrillex.
I wonder if it's got the scratch repair stuff that the G Flex did. Because it looks like the same finish, doesn't it?
No, the G Flex had a weird, like, it was barely hairline. You could barely see it. It kind of just looked gray unless you were looking up real close. But that doesn't mean that. Hold up, though. That was just the detail underneath it. Like, the thing that did the self healing was that top coating.
Right.
So that's a really good question, Adam. I wouldn't be surprised if they built that into here because that's one of their big set-offs, you know?
Yeah.
They're the only OEM that's really doing that on smartphones in a big way. So
I just like the one part of the commercial that looks vaguely Borg with the lasers shooting out and anyway.
Yeah.
There's lasers in the commercial? Could that be a teaser?
No, it's for the knock-on decode thing. It's like pop. Okay. It's like camera flashes on the screen. It's cool. Oh. I gotta say, I'm more excited for this than I ever was for the G2, just based on the hardware alone. And that teaser, listen, I have had a very stressful week, and when I watched that teaser in preparation for this podcast, I laughed out loud, and not in derision. It was kind of that unavoidable excitement, that excitement that you get kind of ashamed of when you're sitting in the movie theater and a preview goes up for a movie that is, you know, formulaic and whatever, but it just looks so awesome that, you know, it's appealing to that part of you that is not controlled by your brain. And I don't.
It has large things that go boom.
Yeah, exactly right. This teaser is like the Michael Bay teaser of smartphone commercials.
It's the Fast 7, Fast Furious, or Sevenzers.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because it doesn't. There's a craft to that as well, because I remember HTC teasing the Droid DNA right before they unveiled it in New York with a very similar commercial, because of course it's Droid and it's a robot that's self-assembling and it's also a fighter jet and it just shot somebody and it's like, oh, I'm so intense. And it didn't work. I'm sitting there like, oh, stop. You know, but this is really cool. I don't know. I like it. Go check out the teaser.
It's fun.
Yeah. All right, I'm kind of done with Android. Adam, would you like to take us into Windows Phone?
I would love to take us into Windows Phone. Is there a sound effect to go along with that?
There is. I'm putting it in right now.
In a world where there's already a ton of 8-inch tablets, Microsoft brings us the Surface Mini.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, I had to plug my own editorial there. So
I like it. And what was your editorial called? It's not in the rundown.
The editorial was called "Is Microsoft Too Late for the Surface Mini?" or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, the headline was not nearly as fun as my last editorial. I love the alliterations in the headlines. The wearable watches we wish we wore.
Oh, that's such a good headline. I really enjoyed that, and I didn't pimp it because I was ashamed that I didn't contribute.
I can't see that headline.
The commenters called you out on that too, brother.
I know. I saw that. I appreciate your trying to explain it.
Yeah. So, Microsoft is bringing the Surface. Well, the Surface Mini almost certainly, and it looks like the Surface 3 as well. Which, well, maybe. I don't think there's a whole lot of confirmation here.
No. So, we saw one little mention of the name.
Yeah, I mean,
That's it.
This may be the ultimate expression of Bettridge's Law. Like, this is one of those headlines that asks a question that the answer is almost certainly no. Why? Because it's too early, right? I mean, the Surface Pro 2 just landed.
That was back in October. It was barely 6 months ago.
Yeah, and this is Pro. I mean, yeah, I would be very surprised to see this happen.
Yeah, so it's probably just going to be the Surface Mini. Whether or not it's going to run Windows 8 or Windows RT, we don't know. But there's a lot we don't know, whether it's going to have a kickstand or not, even though this image does have a kickstand, although that's probably pimping the Surface Pro 3. So I don't know. It's a whole lot of speculation.
If we didn't have this probable Surface Mini event coming up, I don't think anyone would be speculating about this find as anything other than a typo. Because there's nothing there.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That said, I'm fine with that because I think the Surface Pro 2 is already doing a very good job, as the Surface Pro did. Adam Lane loves his, and and I say that knowing full well that Adam is going to probably love most things from Microsoft, but he's it's not that. He's actually loves it because it's a very capable machine. And it does everything he needs it to do and more. So I don't think the Surface Pro 2 needs a replacement yet. However, I do think Microsoft needs to play in this mid-range tablet space. Now, Adam, why do you think they're too late?
Well, just there's already so much out there. I did an Amazon search as part of the editorial, and there were like, of the 9 results, there were like, I want to say there were 7 different manufacturers all making Windows 8 8-inch tablets. And we had Toshiba, we had Asus, we had Dell, we had HP. It's just there's so many out there already. I'm just wondering if the world really needs another 8-inch Windows 8 tablet, especially since. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Are there any with really good industrial design though?
Well, you know what? I was, one of the nice parts about my job, my day job, is that we have a multi-platform product coming out, and so we have a bunch of devices. We've got a Nexus 7, we've got several different Windows 8 machines, including the Dell Venue, and I always forget if it's the Dell Venue Pro 8 or the Dell Venue 8 Pro. It's one of the two. Okay.
It's the 8-inch Windows Pro.
Watch both exist, and they're wildly different.
And that is a solid little piece of hardware. I mean, I was tweeting about it earlier in the week, and it's a great piece of hardware and
good value.
And it's like $211 on Amazon. And it's Prime, so you even get free shipping in 2 days. I mean, it's an insanely good price, and I'm surprised I haven't actually bought one yet. But it's a great piece of hardware. It feels mildly adequate in the hand, and it feels real good. It's not, it's very, very solidly built, and it's very responsive, and it's just a great little device. And so I'm just wondering what Microsoft really has to bring to the table in this particular space.
I mean, it is. I think that Dell product is great in its own way, yes, but it's great in that way that's like, okay, we're going to be very inexpensive. We're still going to deliver good quality at this inexpensive price point, but we're not giving you the same kind of experience as you would get from a product called Surface, and I'm just talking about hardware here. So, for some people, I understand. Some people think that means, so you're not giving me a tablet that's too heavy and too thick? Okay, great. But I've always liked the Surface design language, and I've always thought that using a Surface felt like using the future.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree that the Surface is great hardware. It's just I don't know that Microsoft can compete with something like, the Venue Pro. And by the way, there's one thing that's worth mentioning. The Venue Pro 8 does not have an USB port, which I was a little disappointed by. But I don't know that any 8-inch tablet has a USB port off the top of my head.
Wait, it should.
But it's got a micro USB port, so can't you just
It has a micro USB,
micro to micro and do an adapter that way?
I guess if you want to carry around yet another adapter.
It's like the people in the comments who, like, when there's a comparison and you miss a detail, it's like, what about USB on the go? And I'm like, does anybody use USB on the go? I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I got to use that. We'll see.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm interested to see what Microsoft will bring to the table. I just have to wonder. History is not on Microsoft's side in this, is how I concluded my editorial. It's just, are they going to bring a great product at a competitive price? Pick one. So it's just, I don't know what they're going to be able to contribute in this space. That's just my view.
I should point out this was my idea for the editorial, and I'm just happy we were able to develop it beyond what would really piss off the fanboys, because that may have been where I started.
Yeah, Steven started off with a all-out riot, and then I waxed on some PR juice. So
we pulled it back a little bit. I think that because these are valid questions to be asking. I'm sure that we'll have actually some fully formed opinions once we actually know what we're dealing with. Sure. Just an update on last week's news on this. We still are not officially going, guys. So, if we have to, we'll report on it from afar. I've got to say, I'm a little pissed off. But, hey, what are you going to do?
It's in New York, though, right?
Yeah, which is where I've been living this month, essentially. Yeah. I've been going to New York every, 4 days for something else. So it's like, hey, there's still some time. Windows Phone 8.1, first software update.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. So it's not even officially out, and we're already getting updates.
Oh, y'all bleeding edge developer preview, boys.
Which is pretty cool, because, I got it on my Lumia 1020. I got the alert, and it installed without incident. And I think Joe Belfiore is the one who went into some detail on what improvements this brings. Predominantly, it's battery life, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the only feature that's been spelled out. I mean, little bug fixes behind the scenes, but apparently users are reporting this does really impact their experience with battery performance.
I must tell you that I'm very much looking forward to actually going back to Windows Phone whenever I can. But one of the absurd things about being a tech reviewer in the busy season is that you don't get to use your phone.
I plan to switch back to the Lumia 920 in about 3 weeks.
Is that right?
So, yeah. Well, I'm going on vacation to St. Louis with my family next week, and I still don't trust Microsoft Maps, especially in an environment that I've really only been to once 15 years ago.
Sure.
So when it comes to directions and where can I find a restaurant that isn't abandoned and on fire, I'm going to be using the Nexus 5 through that trip. But then pretty much once I get back, probably going to switch back to the to Windows Phone.
Why don't you bring both, Adam? Because I've actually had a good time.
Oh, I'm taking both. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've had a good time.
Proverbial Captain Two phones.
Yeah, and it is actually fun periodically, like in that really nerdy way when I'm not even working. I'm not even preparing a piece on it, but I'll be like, hey, I wonder how well Here Maps has improved in this area in the 6 months since I've tried it. Why don't I swap into Windows Phone, see how it is, and then sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not, but it's just fun to do.
Should also be mentioned that part of the St. Louis trip is a geocaching mega event, and
totally. And you need your Android geocaching.
You need the Android,
Yep.
and I'm hearkening back to November when I said, and I'll say it again, it's the stupidest reason in the world to pick a platform, but that's my reason.
No, it's not. It's whatever. I mean, it's a fun reason. Don't let anybody talk trash about geocaching. It's fun.
It's damn right.
Fun. We should geocache together.
We should. You should come out here and come to Beverly.
Nah, you come here.
Third oldest cache in the world.
I want to know.
Now I got your attention.
Sort of. I want to know more about this update, though. We have people receiving it because they're developer early preview. We're all running the early thing. But Steven, when the F is 8.1 going to come to real hardware?
In a matter of weeks.
Ooh.
Well, the updates for the existing phones. That's what Microsoft said back at the beginning of April. We haven't really been updated since then, but I think you're alluding to something else, so I should look at that.
I think so. Oh,
yeah.
Because
so
isn't there some real hardware coming to shelves with 8.1 pre-installed?
Yes, sir. Before the updates arrive for existing phones, we're going to see the arrival of the first phones with 8.1 from the get-go in the form of Lumia's latest 6 series devices. The 630 is going up for sale, I think today is when it finally premieres in certain markets. Let me see.
India begun posted May 14th.
Yeah.
Available from today, so it was available as of Wednesday.
Oh, okay. So
sales starting in Asia this week, followed by Europe and US. Yep.
Yeah. So if you are in the right market, you can pick up a 630 for pretty darn cheap as of right now. And I'm curious to learn if there is going to be an 8.1 update like there was for the developer preview that hits the 630 already. Because I haven't heard anything about that.
Well, wait. No, but it's shipping with 8.1, right?
Right. But I'm saying if they're already updating the developer preview, there should be a corresponding update for 8.1 itself.
I bet that they early upgraded the 630 to it, so that it's not much of a hiccup to unbox a phone and then immediately do an update. Like we've seen that plenty of times. But
right.
Either way, it's going to come with 8.1 out of the box. And if you out there are struggling to remember what the hell the 630 is, because I can never remember. For some reason, I have this mental block. I can't remember 600 series Nokia phones at all. This one has a 4.5-inch LCD covered by Gorilla Glass 3, an 1830 milliamp hour battery, and a Snapdragon. What? I can't find what processor it has.
And what resolution? Is it WVGA? I assume it's WVGA at these prices.
Probably. Snapdragon processor is all they're saying, quad core, so it's probably the Snapdragon 400.
Right.
I sure wish that I could go to their frickin' specs page on this and read it. But anyway, it's a big screen mid-range phone, right? And what's the camera resolution? Do we know? We don't know right now, but we could know. It's dual SIM, which is fun. And I wish I was on the right page for this. I'm not. Lumia 630. Here's the
while we're looking
page
for that.
Here. I've got it. Yeah.
Okay.
More product information, specifications. Display size 4.5. Yeah, FWVGA 854 by 480 is that weirdo resolution. 5 megapixel camera. There it is. 9.2 millimeters thick. How many grams? We don't know.
No.
Snapdragon 400.
I thought you could.
Confirmed.
You said you're really good at guesstimating grams at this point.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. 134.
What do you think?
By the way.
Huh?
Yeah. So
I just guess 145 is a good. It's around 145-ish.
you know, I gotta say, this thing doesn't look as good as I thought it would look. Oh, are those on-screen buttons? Yeah, they are.
Yeah, 8.1, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but I've only run.
Yeah, in fact, this is when we first saw them.
Hardware.
We saw
really?
them back in December. Leaked screenshots for the 630 were our first confirmation of those on-screen buttons.
This is, listeners, this is a cautionary tale. If you ever start a podcast, have your pages preloaded, because otherwise your entire pacing, everything just goes out the window as you wait for pages to load. Anyway,
While you're streaming on Skype with two other people, and who could have seen that coming?
So yeah, what were you going to say something about this, Adam?
I was just while we were talking about the OTA update for 8.1, I just had this mental image of like a server with the 8.1 like counting the number of OTA uploads, and it's like it's like, all right, we're gonna release it now, and it goes like 6 and just stops because everybody else has already updated.
Yeah. Now.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, stupid story.
No worries. Actually, we're at the end of our rundown, and I'm just checking for breaking news to hit up.
What about the listener mail, Michael?
Nope. Listeners, there's a nice animated GIF of Louis C.K. saying "nope" in our thing, and it is GIF. Steven, you shut up. I didn't mean it. You can talk.
Can we just say GIF from now on?
GIF. Yeah. Actually, Stephen, you make a good point. Guys, you want to stick around for 10 minutes and just do 3 or 4 pieces of listener mail, because we're actually a little ahead of schedule. Stephen, if you want to go, you can go.
No.
Why don't you just go?
How are we ahead of schedule? Hold on. You have listener mail kicking in an hour and 6 in.
It's not an hour and 6. It's an hour and 20.
You're totally making those times up.
In the rundown.
In the rundown.
Oh, no. Those time codes are always from the previous week.
I was going to wonder, how do you guestimate with such precision?
Oh, no, I don't do that. No. Just copy-paste, sucker. All right, don't worry. I'll read them. So we've got a couple here. Let's do the bong listener mail. Bong. Good times. Hey, Pocketnow team. This is from Greg Vogt. And this is about the BlackBerry Z3. I figured we changed it up a little, guys. We talked about all the other platforms. Let's talk about BlackBerry a little bit.
Hey-o.
BlackBerry releasing their new budget BlackBerry 10 smartphone, the Z3, in Indonesia this week.
Edition,
with a Jakarta edition, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a sub $200 price tag. How do you think this phone will stack up against other mid-range phones, such as the Moto G and the Lumia 820? Also, do you believe the new budget BlackBerry 10 phones will allow BlackBerry to increase sales and market share like the Lumia 800 series did for Windows Phone? Sincerely, Greg Vogt. Good question, Greg. I like this. And, Adam, Steven, jump in here. What do you guys think? We've been talking about low-cost phones this podcast. We've probably got our brains in the right gear, yeah?
I'm just kind of looking over the specifications because I've kind of tuned out BlackBerry news. I'm sorry, but
there hasn't been a lot of it. To be fair, there really hasn't.
Yeah. So what are we looking at here, like in terms of specifications? Does anybody know off the top of their heads?
The BB-Z3. No, bring it up. I'm doing a tab on listener mail, and I'm putting the time code down, so I'm slightly busy at the moment. We don't know much about this. We don't have a review unit. To be honest, we haven't aggressively pursued it because it's not really in the market that we're predominantly in, guys.
All right, here we go. Z3 specs via Phone Arena. Whenever you're... go ahead, Steven, sorry.
It's not cheap enough. It's selling... works out to like around $200. I mean, when you're competing for the lower end, you're going against the 520, the Moto E. You have to work against these much more affordable devices in this. And the specs, I mean, what's this, quarter HD?
Yeah,
it's not very...
Quarter HD at what size?
It's a 5-inch phone. The resolution is 540 by 960 for a 220 PPI. It's a 5-megapixel camera with autofocus.
It's like a mid-ranger from last year. And
front-facing camera 1.1. System memory is 1.5 gig of RAM. Yeah, okay. Snapdragon 800, so that's not bad. Dual core.
That's not bad.
Built-in is
dual core. What?
It's a dual core, 1.2 gigahertz.
Then so it's not the 800, is it?
No, it's an 8230.
Okay.
8230. Okay.
Snapdragon 400.
Plus. It's S4 Plus.
Oh, it's S4 Plus.
Really? Okay. Well, Phone Arena was wrong then. Okay, and we've got 8 gig of built-in storage, micro SD up to 32.
Okay.
Battery 2,500 milliamp hours.
This doesn't seem like all that bad a
But
device.
it's
You're getting a lot
still
for your money here.
BlackBerry, though, so you're not getting the apps and all the stuff that the people like.
What market is this for? This is for Indonesia, which has a very strong presence in BlackBerry, right? So
Well, so does Canada, but that didn't help them.
Well, I'm not saying. I think the question is this: when you're looking at the low end, of course your options are more limited, right? And you've got for a while now, you've had the Windows Phone offerings in the Lumia 5.2X series. Now you're starting to get the Moto E alongside the Moto G, which is prohibitively expensive in the supremely low end. And now you have the BlackBerry. So I guess the thing, I don't think that the BlackBerry platform would be too much of a handicap when people are shopping for phones at a certain price point that's very low. They expect to have limited options. But I think what you guys were saying before is a lot more valid. This is too expensive, right?
Yeah, it's what, $200, and there's I can already think of 3 phones I would rather have off the top of my head for less money. And you know, the 520 is 1/4 of that. So although granted, prices don't necessarily carry over to overseas markets. So you know, the Lumia 520 could be $50 here. It could be, you know, $700 over in, you know, wherever. So right, I've seen that happen.
I was going to make that point too. Yeah, those conversations are prevalent in our coverage of the Moto E, by the way, because there's a lot of people, you visit the Motorola site from different parts of the world, you get different prices based on your local market. So
anytime I talk about a phone or some manufacturer trying to release a phone with a Nexus level price tag, half the comments are, no, Nexus phones are crazy expensive. Like, well, maybe for you, but give me a break.
All over the place. It is crazy. It is. This is a big world, and there's a lot of different places in it.
Amen.
But so going off the assumption that price is representative of what it's going to be, then it's too expensive. But if the competing phones like the Moto G and the Lumia 520 and whatnot, if they are all similarly inflated, then it's got a shot, but it's still BlackBerry. Which, I mean, God, 4 years ago, that would have been an awesome thing. It's like, hey, it's BlackBerry. Now it's like, it's BlackBerry.
But you know, I still think BBM is pretty big in Indonesia. I still think like being in on that network is big because you have.
But you can get that on Android now.
Right, but there are still some advantages, if I'm not mistaken. And listeners, please write in if you're an Indonesian resident and I'm wrong on this. But I still think there are ways of getting cheaper monthly bills by using BlackBerry's offerings rather than using raw data. Like there's some kind of billing difference that used to be serviced by BlackBerry Internet Service back in the day, and I don't know. I don't know if that's still the case, but I remember you could save a lot of money if you used a BlackBerry in some of these markets because you wouldn't be billed SMS rates, which are crazy expensive for messaging. Yeah, so that may be the thing. So maybe I don't. You know, for some people, if you do the yearly calculation, if you're saving enough on monthly bills, then you'll pay a little bit more for a device up front if it's going to make those savings happen for you. And if that's the case, then this BlackBerry makes a lot of sense. If not, then and I can't imagine that they didn't take that into account when they decided where to launch the thing, for God's sake. So, I don't know. We don't have enough to sufficiently answer that question, but I think we've tossed around enough speculation that, we're at least 15% right.
Yeah.
Good.
And, 15% is,
it's the new 80%.
That's right.
Yeah.
72% of statistics are all made up.
That's right. Common Core, buddy. I don't know what that means. Hey, this one's from PPO Mares. PPO Mares. Anyway, it's not signed. I just have the email address to go on, so there we go.
All right.
I like this question, though. We all know how much Samsung is being criticized about their flagship's battery cover material choice, the email says. I don't really understand why, being a removable cover, they don't offer different backing options, just as they currently do with colors. People would be able to buy a plastic, leather, or metal S5 for the same price and change it as they please afterwards. What's your opinion about this matter? I'd love to have this question read in the weekly. Thank you. Sent from Samsung Mobile.
Wish granted.
What do you mean?
He wants to have the email read on the weekly.
Oh, that part. Yeah, but I was like, wait a minute. What do they got? Come on, man.
No, sorry. I should clarify my vague comments. No, it's an interesting point, but I don't know that there would necessarily be that much of a market for it.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
look at Moto Maker. I mean, I don't know. The Moto X didn't necessarily sell as well as they wanted to, but the Moto G is their best-selling device in history, and you can customize that one.
I think Samsung, though, is very protective when it comes to its designs. Like with the Galaxy S5, we're all looking at the Band-Aid looking back. I'm like, what is Samsung thinking here? Samsung must have felt incredibly strong about that to go forward with the design. I mean, it's going to, the sort of money it has, it's going to test market these things. It's going to get focus groups. It's going to hear these complaints. It went forward with that nonetheless. It believes in what it's doing. And as such, I think giving that sort of control over to users and all of its official accessories, all the add-on, the wireless charging and the flip covers, they all match with the same design language. Letting the end users mix this up, I don't think it could bring itself to give up that sort of control over how its phones look. I mean, you can't control aftermarket cases and whatnot, but I think it's going to do what it can to deliver a consistent look and feel for each particular model.
It's our crappy design, and we're not going to let you ruin it.
Right. Kind of, yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, it belongs to them.
Okay. I don't think you're wrong on that. I as much as I really kind of don't like Samsung's industrial design for its more recent handsets, I think you've got a point. Just because it's being widely debated across the internet doesn't mean that it's not working out for them. They sold 11 million units a month, so yeah.
I mean, I guess it is strange that Samsung seems to be leaving a market on the table, which is definitely not what Samsung does.
Right, that's the thing, because they have the ability to do this. I mean, if Motorola can set up a factory that builds custom phones, surely Samsung can release a line of designer backs. And they have partnered, I should say that Samsung has partnered with designers to release.
Yeah, we get those cases. Crystal ones and stuff.
Yeah, the Swarovski thing, but also those designers whose names I don't remember because I'm not a fashion follower. But when the Note 3 was released, they had a bunch of cases that were like, "Hey, we partnered with."
Yeah, but it's always clear these are the exceptions. These are the special devices. They're not opening the floodgates in any sense of the word.
Yes, no, that's true, and it would be. Yeah, I would like to see this. I think this is a very good idea, and I wish we could see it. But
I wish I was a little bit taller.
Do you wish you were a baller?
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was thinner.
See, you ruined it.
Yeah, no, sorry. I didn't realize where you were going with that until you said baller, and by then I had already decided I was going to say it, and once I decide something, I got to say it, and that's what's gotten me in trouble all my life.
Inside Baseball here. This is from Justin Eads asking a question about why we do multiple device reviews. Hello, Pocketnow team. First of all, love the work you're doing and keep it up. Thanks, Justin. My question, just wondering, why is there a review on the same device, just a different carrier? For example, the HTC One M8. There was your first review, and I think it was Taylor did one for a Verizon model. Is there that much difference between carriers? Thank you again, Justin Eads from Arizona. This is a very valid question.
I was kind of wondering it myself, actually.
Me too.
Yeah, so the reason is multifaceted, and part of it is for lack of a better word, habit. Back in the days when carriers had a lot more say in how they modified their devices, the phones could actually have quite significant differences across carriers. We remember this from, as recently as 3 or 4 years ago this was happening. Now that manufacturers have started demanding that the device be the same across all carriers, there are quite a few fewer differences. In fact, the hardware is very often the same. But you still have differences in terms of software bloat. Some of these additions from the carriers do affect performance. What?
Let's just do another review and just talk about all the extra crap that this different carrier put on there.
We could have just an update, tacked on 3 paragraphs. This is how the bloat is different. But I mean, when we have different reviewers look at these devices, we also get a whole other viewpoint on the phone itself. And we all have our likes and dislikes here, so you get a different opinion on the device as well. It's kind of like an extension of the first review.
Should also be pointed out that the LG G2, didn't that have a pretty significant difference hardware on Verizon?
Yeah, it did. They changed the buttons. They changed a bunch of stuff on it. So there's that as well. And also, that's why we do review rebuttals. When we don't have carrier variants or we can't get them for some reason, we'll send the same device to another team member to be like, hey, we reviewed this. Yes, you had input on the first review, but look at it from your own perspective. And if you agree, say you agree. If you disagree, say why you disagree. And it's just a matter of giving different perspectives. The different carrier variants help us do that. Although as these phones become more and more homogenous across carriers, and as carriers against their wishes become dumb pipes, maybe we'll look at this and decide to go a different route on it. But yeah, all these things combine to make that a different thing. And network performance. I shouldn't have to say it, but of course, network performance affects everything. And
yeah.
But yeah, so I think we basically are just doing our best to cover everything as thoroughly as possible. So. I
think it also makes sense if you do an initial review with like an overseas model, and then we get like an American variant. Then that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that's a reason too, because sometimes we can get the overseas version or the global quote unquote global version first, and it doesn't come to American carriers until weeks later. And then it's just a question of competing, guys, in this in the publication sense, because frankly, we can't always be sitting here waiting for a carrier variant to come to us for 4 weeks while everyone else has a review out. That doesn't make very much sense from a business perspective. And also, I don't like sitting here watching everybody else give their opinion and sitting here reading a review and saying, I agree or I disagree. Like, no, I want to be in the conversation. So that's why we do this. And if that results in multiple reviews, well, hey, that's an okay sacrifice to make, I think. So, yeah. Well,
yes. You'll never take me alive, cover.
Okay, final piece of listener mail from Frank R60. Frank NYC is how he signs it. Hi, team. Thanks for all the great content. Thanks, Frank. It seems Motorola has carved out a niche for inexpensive mid-range phones. No doubt. Will we ever see true high-end Motorola phones again? Something that competes with the GS5 and HTC One. Thanks, as always, for a great podcast, Frank NYC.
Thanks for a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have my answer to this. I think absolutely.
That's got a lot of sexy attached to it.
Yeah. What do you guys think? What do you think, Adam?
I don't think that's the way Motorola wants to go. I think that they've really worked hard over the last year to show we don't need to put out really high-end devices to give you a great experience, which doesn't mean it'll never happen, but I just don't think that that's where they're focused right now. I think they're really focused on optimizing software and hardware to live interchange or in a symbiotic circle, as they would say,
harmony, if you will.
Yeah.
Jesus, Michael.
Wow, Steven. You and I are hanging out too much.
So I just think, just based on what they've done, that just seems to be where their sights are set. So I could be wrong.
Steven, do you agree? Disagree?
Yeah, what did we hear recently? I feel like there was a leak about some Motorola hardware that looked like this. It was very high end. It had, 1080p screen and stuff that we wouldn't expect from these Moto X style devices. And we wondered if it might be this X+1 that we're hearing will come out later in the summer. I kind of like what Motorola is doing now just fine. I don't think it would hurt them to add some higher tier offerings, but price and value more than anything, I think, is driving Motorola sales at the moment. It still could be able to sell a higher end phone without a crazy high price, like a 450 model or something. But if it doesn't do that, I don't think it's going to be doing itself any disservice. I think its place in the market right now is it's having great success, and it's not seeing a lot of other strong competitors there. We have cheaper Android phones, certainly, but few from manufacturers with the sort of gravitas as Motorola, especially in the West. And it can keep on doing what it's doing here, and it's not going to... I ran out of thoughts there. It's not going to
be a bad thing.
Well, and it's not a bad thing because, the Moto G, I'll say it again, I said it earlier, but it hit me in the face that this is the truth. It is their best-selling smartphone ever. Ever. They're selling the thing in over 120 countries or something. They've got 70-something% year-over-year growth in one particular metric that I forgot. But it's a big success story for them, and it's a really low-end device. So I think that, Frank, you're right. They've carved out a nice niche for themselves. But I don't think that means that they have lost interest in servicing the higher end. I think the Moto X didn't land as well as they wanted it to, frankly. And the Lenovo acquisition is going to muddy all these waters. Maybe we'll see something entirely different a year from now. But I think that if they can apply the lessons they learned from the Moto X launch appropriately to a device that, with the X+1 or whatever it's going to be called, that doesn't go too far in the way of those flagship specs, because that's not where they succeed.
But I don't think those would ruin anything as long as the margins are low enough that it's still selling the thing affordably. It's not that the Moto X succeeded because of its less than flagship specs. It succeeded because of the price and the value you got for them.
So that's true. So if you want to have it both ways, then yeah. But I don't know. I think it's really hard to do. I think when you're putting that many specs in a phone, that your marketing department wants to be like, let us go brag about this. This is awesome. But that's not the message, I don't think, that Motorola wants to send with any X-level device. And it's not one they should send, I don't think. Because I was just looking at the After the Buzz for the Moto X that I did this morning because somebody was asking me about an iPhone alternative. I was like, well, it's a little late to buy one, but you might look at the Moto X. And I looked at our conclusions on the ATB, and I just started actively missing my Moto X that I want to use again because it's such a good product. And so I think that if Motorola can somehow marry that with specs that will get the nerds on the internet excited enough to talk about the thing in a complimentary fashion rather than a dismissive one, and price it properly, then yeah, I don't know. Who knows? But I do think that there is a future in this. I don't think that they're just going to abandon this because they had some success with the Moto G and they're like, well, we're going to be low end forever, Particularly not with Lenovo wanting to make a name for itself in North America with smartphones. That's what I think. And I also think that those are enough thoughts for all of us.
I think those are enough thoughts.
I do have one mail I would like to address because it was specifically to me here.
Oh, you actually got into the inbox? Oh, good.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, well then, yeah, freaking read it, brother.
Okay, we have Ganesh from India, who I assume is the same Ganesh as Joe was addressing with his editorial there, who asks, for me, wants to know how things are going between me and Rithvik. And if there's any budding rivalry between this new competition, and wants to know how we decide who covers what so as to avoid mix-ups. No, there's no rivalry. Rithvik is the awesome new addition to our team here, who's been doing the news shift in the evenings and overnight here. He's out on the west coast of the U.S., so we're not really fighting over the news at all. I end things up in the evening here on the East Coast, and I just hand the reins over to him, and he picks up from there, covers because there's still all these companies out west. Microsoft and Apple might be releasing news later in the day, and stuff over to Tony at night. So it's a well-oiled machine here. We're all covering the news different times. There's no conflict here. Just enjoying each other's presence and seeing what we can do.
Just seeing what we can all do together.
Which completely flies in the face of what I wanted to do, which was to have both Steven and Rithvik write up the same piece, and then we'll all vote on it, mud wrestling style.
By the time the news gets out, it's 4 hours later, and it's cold. Yes.
So, wow. Rejected.
This is great stuff. Thank you for that, Steven. I actually saw that. I was going to save that for another one, but I'm really glad that you brought it up now because it's nice to close on a little bit of peek behind the curtain, if you will. Insider info. But guys, with
Pocketnow Insider.
I've started doing the podcast while not plugged in, and I'm down to 5% on my battery, so I think we should close this out.
That? This happens every time.
Well, it's a self-imposed deadline, because otherwise I'll talk all afternoon, and then I have to edit a longer show, and next thing you know, I'm working the weekend again, like always happens. So
that's what I told my wife. We say it's going to be an hour, we plan for an hour and a half, and it ends up being 2.
There you go. This is
what are you and your wife doing for 2 hours?
No, you're talking about the podcast, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, podcast. Yeah. Totally.
And with that bit of humor, I want to thank both of you for coming out for this Friday afternoon edition. Appreciate it.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. It's always awesome. And
I'm just glad I didn't suck like I did on the last podcast. Man, I went back and listened to that, and it was horrible.
Suck on the last
it was horrible.
Man, you guys were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked.
Jeez, this whole thing sucks. Now, I hope that you both have an outstanding weekend, whether it's geocaching or in the case of Steven, doing that secret thing he does when he turns off his work email and disappears.
Buying 7-year-old T-Mobile.
Yeah, buying G1s from Craigslist and testing them in the local mall.
Just remember, when you have that $5 on you, make sure you meet in a public place. Otherwise,
I don't want to get ripped off.
Yeah, don't be going to no Craigslist house.
No, I'm going in eyes open.
Yeah, all right. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. And again, thank you for all your listener mail every week. We do love it. Even if we don't get to pieces on the air, we read every one. Podcast@pocketnow.com. Also, be sure to find us on Twitter. Adam is Dead Technology. Steven is at Steven Schenck, and I am at Captain Two Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow officially at Pocketnow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Google+. And if you enjoy the podcast, we hope you do. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Xbox Music, Stitcher, and wherever else podcasts are heard. We really do appreciate those good reviews. We keep on reading, so thank you. And thank you again for listening. You're the best audience a podcaster could ask for real. And we'll be back with more Mobile Tech Talk next week.
For reels on the wheels.
Ba-da-ba. No listener mail. Did you like my GIF?
That was
GIF.
No.
You son of a bitch.
It's GIF.
It's GIF. According to the official maker of the word, it is GIF.
Yeah, and he's officially wrong about it.
They just had this discussion on Twit last week, and I listened to it for 10 minutes. I'm like, wow, didn't I hear this like a year ago? It's GIF.
I still don't care.
Live with it. Yeah.
It's not peanut butter.
That was also said on the other show. This is amazing.